What's up, guys? Kevin Cage here. Hope all is well. Got a bunch of information to get through, so pay close attention here. And without further ado, let's kick things off with some Bitrue news. So as we know, one of the XRP friendly exchanges, they run a validator on the XRP ledger as well, have a bunch of XRP pairs. I'm excited for the liquidity to grow in this ecosystem, and I'm happy to see exchanges like Bitrue are always supporting initiatives that Ripple is working on, such as PayID, this whole concept of this open payments coalition. If you guys remember the white paper for PayID, obviously it includes David Schwartz of Ripple. It includes a gentleman from the Logos network, which Ripple acquired to work on the XRP ledger and derivative-like products, and then also other people from formerly what was called Spring and today is called Ripple X. So PayID, essentially, you'll be able to just get a single wallet address or similar to a crypto domain per se. And now when I send you XRP, Ethereum, Bitcoin, VeChain, ADA, whatever, to that PayID, to Bitrue, and it ends in Bitrue, it will go specifically to that wallet of the corresponding crypto. Just like you see in the top right now, I have kevincage.yt. That's my unstoppable domain, used more generally on the Ethereum network. This is the same concept for an exchange. So I'll show you guys. I'm sure 80% of you have already done this, but wanted to show any newcomers. And if you do not have a Bitrue account, which is just another exchange, you can create an account in the video description below. So right here, I did retweet this as well. So deposit XRP on Bitrue using PayID. Super simple instructions. I'm just going to show you on my account really quick, and then we'll keep moving. So right here on bitrue.com, I'm signed in and I go to deposit. So I'm clicking deposit. And now, for example, we're actually going to start off right here, and it's going to show the legacy address. Now I can click this and I'll see the long serial numbers. I'll see the destination tag, and that's just typically a mess. And if ever I want people to send me crypto now, whether it's XRP or any other asset, I can click right here, click PayID, and then I can create my own. So I've already created it. As you can see, it's Kevin Cage, and then this has the rest of it, the $PayID.bitrue.com. Once you create this, you cannot change it. So all I did was when I clicked PayID here, I typed in Kevin Cage and hit enter, and this is my new PayID. So I can copy this, I can paste it, and now that it's all connected with XRP, whenever I send XRP to this type of domain, say from cold storage or maybe from my Trust wallet, it will go right to my Bitrue wallet. Super, super cool, and it's just a great way to support the ecosystem. All right. Let's keep going now. So I want to address Greg Kidd really quick. I want to show you a video clip that was shared by XRP Stort as well on Twitter, and I think it's very telling where the space is all going. And then also, I did just watch Digital Asset Investor's recent video going over actually the Promontory Financial Group, known as a shadow regulator. Really interesting stuff. And it's funny that we have like 5 or 6 former Ripple employees that were from this group. They are deep in bed with IBM. And yes, I understand there's a lot of dot connecting. There are a lot of coincidences. And obviously, the more coincidences I find, it's almost just like more data that's backing this decision as well. So to each their own. Always your own research, question everything, but I just want to show you how deep some of this goes, and I'm sure many of you are well aware of this. So we know Greg Kidd, obviously CEO of Global ID. He's big on identification today, incorporating DLT payment networks. So he's previously a director at Promontory Financial Group, also a senior analyst for payments at the Board of Governor of the Federal Reserve. We can see, a variety of other things, NASDAQ, etc. So highly recommend looking into this. And then also you can kind of see, so senior analyst at the Federal Reserve Board from 2002 to 2004. You can see that they're, focused on payment systems, ACH clearing, etc. And then even private sector money transfer systems. Interesting. All right, we can see a consultant like director for 9 years at Promontory Financial Group. Curious the caliber of people he met there. Obviously, IBM, Goldman Sachs, you name it. And then he became chief risk officer at Ripple. And as we know, per his story of actually finding out about Ripple and all of this, he did say he found out about it at a card game. We don't know who he was playing cards with. And in the interview, he did say it was almost like when Moses was parting the seas when he saw XRP. So obviously, this dude is passionate about the project. He knows his stuff. And of course, thanks to him and some other people, right when Ripple was really founded, they already were meeting with the Treasury within 1 month. Now, I can't really say that about many private companies. And of course, it is about who you know. But this is just another example of such. All right. So in this video clip, this is shared by XRP_Stort. We have Greg Kidd right here talking about this. Now this clip is from, I suppose, April 15th, 2019. But he says the first month we went to the Treasury to explain what we were doing. So we did not operate under the illusion that we could never be really regulated. Doing it right. And I respect that. All right, listen up.
you kind of take that for granted. That's the way Airbnb got started and Uber. They weren't in, at that time, regulated industries. But generally things in financial services, you got to be regulated. So when I came to Ripple, that was a new blockchain. That was the second thing after Bitcoin. The first month we went.
And keep in mind, Ripple, I mean, with XRP, the XRP ledger, this is the first ledger to go outside of proof of work. This is called innovation.
The Treasury to explain what we were doing. So we didn't operate under the illusion that we would never be regulated and we would never have to ask permission. So it's finding that balance between doing something that's really innovative, but if you want to go mainstream and you're successful, you're going to run up against rules and regulations, guys with guns and badges.
Yeah.
So I walk that
equally
line.
as powerful, actually.
So I'd like to see these new innovations make it into the mainstream. I'd like everyone in the world to be able to participate in this. So that doesn't mean that you can do it in a Mad Max way. But I hope you don't have to do it in a George Orwell way either. And now I'm more aware of maybe not in a Facebook way. So that's been the big passion, is finding a way that we can take these new innovations and make them for the people. And it's not because I'm like a hippie. You can probably tell I'm not a hippie.
No, don't strike.
And also remember what he has said. He owns approximately 1% of the entire float of XRP. So you do that math.
It doesn't strike me. Ripple, the Fed, historian, not a hippie.
But like my aspiration is like the way the world worked in like Star Trek. Like that's in the future.
Okay.
And like people, they know when the door's open. So there must be some way that like it knows the door's supposed to open for you.
For you, not for me.
Not for me, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they left out that episode of how to do that. So I believe the responsibility is to figure out how to get the identity solution figured out so you can do all these things without huge amounts of fraud or fake news.
So that is what he's building with Global ID. He's focusing on the identity aspect.
Or all the other downsides of having a system that's bottom up that might be an attack vector for bad guys.
So you guys decide for yourselves. I think his interests to this day are incredibly, incredibly aligned with Ripple. All right, so we'll keep going here. Next, so remember, this was the 80 plus document released by the Department of Justice, referring back to 2015 when obviously Ripple got slapped on the wrist by FinCEN during this fine. This typically happens with a lot of these groups. I mean, same concept with that other crypto, EOS, and their security-like practices. They pay a fee. I mean, come on, guys, you know how banks work today. They pay a little fee and they're still profitable by hundreds of millions of dollars, and they move on. So this group is just another example of working with the regulators from the get-go, always pivoting. All right. So this was the recent document by the DOJ released by Attorney General William Barr, and he announces this publication of the Cryptocurrency Enforcement Framework. Now, what I want to emphasize and read are a few points made by Brad Garlinghouse of Ripple, CEO. So right here, XRP CryptoWolf sharing this. We need a framework like the Digital Commodities Exchange Act, and of course we've gone over that a few times, that provides clarity, protects consumers, and fosters innovation in the US, or companies will move their investment or whole company overseas. And of course, I think that this is much more than a threat that Ripple is doing, trying to force hands. People can speculate if we're going to go to the UK, if we're going to Singapore, Malta, Switzerland, Luxembourg, Liechtenstein. There's a variety of great countries out there. I think that the UK would be absolutely amazing because I also love that R3 is right over there. And there's a lot of things also happening in that regard. But we will simply see what's going to happen. They're going to have to really force a move soon. And keep in mind, Ripple's still aiming to go public unless we hear otherwise. And with all of this information this week, Swell is happening. So it's really exciting that we got, kind of a tease with this whole line of credit announcement. We have this Ripple rebranding. We have a new on-demand liquidity, or a new actual RippleNet corridor, which is really exciting with Thailand and the UK. I think that all of these stars are aligning. And obviously, I'm hoping that they save something, such as the best for last during Swell. Hopefully, they didn't just release it now. All right? So, Brad Garlinghouse right here. However, last week's DOJ report lists 8 separate US reg bodies, each with a different view. Crypto's a property. No, crypto is a commodity. No, crypto is a virtual currency. Nah, it's a security, etc. Regulation should not be a guessing game. People act like this is great clarity for us. It wasn't. All it is just more rules, and they're really they're contradictory. That's what I should say. So, if you do a 70-plus page report, and it has a bunch of rules that all just go against one another, that's not clarity. That is why on this channel, when I say We don't need regulations per se. We need specific guidelines. We need clarity. We need frameworks that say what you can and cannot do. So then they can operate within that framework and keep being successful. With all of these rules, they're so limited, they still have no clarity of what they can do. So they're just sitting there twiddling their thumbs. All right. This is what they need as private companies. Whatever you believe, I agree with the sentiment, specifically with the US. We need to kick things into gear. All right. So right here regarding this, the Digital Commodity Exchange Act, U.S. House of Rep, crafts legislation to provide clarity for fintech innovators. Obviously, one of the biggest fintech innovators is Ripple, one of the highest valued ones that has started from the get-go, specifically focused on DLT, is in the ISO framework or in the body group. There's just too many coincidences right now, and they are a true shaker or mover and shaker in this industry. So notice this Digital Commodity Exchange Act, and obviously, typically, if XRP is not going to be considered a security, it most likely for now would be considered a commodity. Perhaps they'll come up with some new type of classification, utility token, or who knows what. We can speculate as we will, but my bet is this: it will never be considered a security unless it was for early onset practices. That's it. And that's just my opinion, not financial advice. You guys please let me know. Obviously, there's different people that are in the know as well. So digital commodity trading platforms are currently required to comply with a complicated labyrinth of 53 state and territory regulatory frameworks, hindering the ability for newcomers to enter the market. And this is what I went over. I think Martin Volk shared it. It was basically a document or article going over that even new exchanges cannot compete with the top players now. It's too late. They're trying to do something to get one leg up and have a competitive advantage, but they can't. There's no, even the legalities, the frameworks that exist don't even foster innovation and competition anymore. And that is crazy. And the whole point of DLT, at least to me, is financial inclusion. If we fail and banks still maintain in power, this whole transfer of wealth happens, it's really not much of a transfer of wealth. It's really just moving it between their own pockets. And I just want financial inclusion out of this. I want a more so level playing field in the world of finance, meaning for corporates and these tier one banks to spread it for these countries and organizations and even SMEs that need it the most. All right. So while also paving the way for innovators to develop new digital commodity projects, I'm excited by the support this bipartisan legislation has received in Congress and from those in the industry. So I look forward to developing a legal framework and providing clarity for fintech innovators and strong protection for users of digital commodities. Well, okay, if you look forward to it, I'm really looking forward to seeing it because personally, we've been anticipating this for several years. There's been all of this push on even the RTP system for the clearinghouse. And obviously, RippleNet has expanded to, 55 countries right now. That's all good and great, but we need clarity already. I'm sick of tired of waiting. And yes, I know patience takes a long time. So we'll, keep tabs on this and hopefully we'll get a response. I would love to see even what Brian Brooks would kind of say to address this, because sometimes, and I'm a big fan of him, but sometimes it seems like a lot of these people in politics are just, a lot more talk, and we need to actually practice what we preach. All right, so as we know, this happened a few days ago. Ripple says Global Payments Network is now live in 55 countries in 95 currency pairs, with XRP remittances running in 5 regions. So we're just getting started. Just understand the upside from here. Wanted to share this. This article's pretty vague, things that we've already gone over, but I just want to talk about it briefly. All right, so Ripple's completely revamped website represents the latest in a string of upgrades for Ripple, which boasts partnerships of the typical, American Express. Remember their JV with Lian in China. We talk about MoneyGram expanding, obviously even the account transfers, Santander. We can just go on and on and on. 300 plus FIs across 40 countries worldwide. And they also launched their new line of credit service. So remember, you can buy XRP on credit, which is also another use case in demand. So they're always incorporating XRP. And remember, we have to develop sustainable liquidity, depth of order books, and we are just getting started. So with ODL's popularity in Mexico, XRP to Mexican peso, it's the top trading pair on the Mexican exchange Bitso at the time of writing. Very exciting. Obviously, we've seen the stats regarding Latin America as well, so I'm excited to keep tabs on this. And we know that Ripple's partner DLocal has expanded into the Caribbean and also throughout Latin America as well. So keep close tabs on this. Next, we know Standard Chartered, they're an early investor in Ripple. Yes, they're working on a variety of other things with other huge players in this blockchain ecosystem, such as Ant. All right. Remember, Ant obviously talking about going IPO, being one of the highest valued companies to date. Absolutely astounding. So Standard Chartered is recruiting to grow their crypto team as well. So it's not just Ripple and these fintechs, it's, banks and even FIs. It's really, really exciting here. So notice this, Standard Chartered vacancies show bank is looking to hold cryptocurrency assets. 2 of the 3 vacancies show that banks intend to increase their holdings of crypto assets. Remember, with the OCC, banks can custody crypto assets. And what's happening with the Volcker rule? Remember, October 1st, 2020, we had some new changes. And also some of these limitations for these banks to hold private hedge funds of, securities or even crypto assets is weakening. And that is exactly what we want. We want the big money, the institutional money to flood through. So we want all of these dams to be open and break them down and have a level playing field. Remember, water goes where it's easiest to flow. If we make everything level, all of this liquidity will just go everywhere. No more, stuck in these dams or siloed ecosystems. And this goes for all liquidity, not just US dollar. It can be any version of even tokenized value. So this will set the banks up to compete against investment giants like Fidelity. Very interesting. And we know that banks are threatened by fintechs and all these other players, so they're doing whatever they can to compete. We'll simply see we have to keep tabs on this and pay attention closely. And also, I know many people just believe the news right when it comes out. They eat whatever they're fed. You have to think a little more critically and wonder why they're putting this information out. Just like with that recent information regarding Square buying up all that Bitcoin. And, people are saying, oh, well, they're buying it all between $10,000 and $11,000 per Bitcoin. They're not waiting for the bottom, neither should you, and trying to get you to FOMO into anything. Just understand, why would they put that out there unless, there was a motive, okay? So just question it. We'll simply see. Obviously, I believe in the future of this asset class like no other, but just try to question it a little bit and, wonder why they're doing it specifically now, okay? We've seen even Bank of America with another press release saying that the stock market will grow massively between the election and inauguration. Why are they putting these quotes out? What do they want to tell you? Typically, we know Goldman Sachs, whenever they say one thing about metals, the opposite happens. They like to manipulate the typical people, just like our buddy Jamie Dimon does as well. All right, so just question everything. We will simply see. And right here, regarding the Volcker rule, if you guys want to read more about it, as we know, the US regulators are relaxing the Volcker rule restrictions. This was back in June 2020, but keep in mind, this rule forbids banks from using their own accounts, keyword, their own accounts, for short-term trading of securities, derivatives, and commodity futures. It also prevents banks from owning hedge funds or private equity funds. If they loosen some of these restrictions, I think you guys know what it means for the world of digitalization, as everything is becoming tokenized due to the plethora of benefits such as asset fractionalization, immutability, all the benefits that DLT brings. We know that NASDAQ is integrating with R3. We know that BOA, we know Bitstamp, we know all these people are working together. And yes, there's competition, there's innovation, there's co-opetition, if you want to use that word, and it's all happening right in front of our eyes. Notice, shares in the major banks have gone up since all of this. We have Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Bank of America, RippleNet, and Citigroup. No surprise, guys, all experiencing this growth of up to 3%. And notice the 5 agencies in question are the FDIC, the Federal Reserve, the OCC, the SEC, and the CFTC. So we're going to pay close attention to this. Notice right here, the 5 say the switch allows banks to allocate resources to more diverse array of long-term investments in a broader range of geographic areas, industries, and sectors. So we'll pay close attention to this. And as always, guys, hopefully you enjoyed. Be sure to create a PayID if you do have a BitTrue account, and I will catch you in the next video.